Richard Hawks, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the New Jersey area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about your new book, Navigate the Swirl, 7 Crucial Conversations for Business Transformation. I think this is a super fun and interesting topic and group of topics to explore together. So that's going to be the crux of our conversation today. As we get started, I wanted to share Richard's bio with everybody. Richard Hawks, the author of Navigate the Swirl, is the founder of Growth River, an international consultancy that guides leaders and teams to create higher performance in businesses and organizations. He helps companies identify and resolve constraints to success. His clients include Edward Jones, Hitachi, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Mars, and others. He sees purpose-driven, customer-focused, team-based, and multi-stakeholder businesses as the best bet for solving the world's biggest problems. He received his BA in computer science and German literature from Hamilton College. Fantastic. And that's an interesting combination, computer science and German literature. I'm not sure how many of those there are floating around with that combo.
It was actually pretty timely at the time because having a computer science degree when I graduated got me a job really quickly. So
yeah, sure. I can totally see that. And then combining it with German literature. Now I say that as someone, for any longtime listeners of the podcast, you know, I lived for several years in South Korea. I minored in Korean language. So among my, various degrees I've earned over the years, I have a love and passion for Korean language and Korean culture, and minored it in. I didn't major in it, but I did minor in it as an undergrad. And yeah, every now and then you just throw in these kind of unique little things that help round out the individual. And that's certainly how I see my experience. And it's, I imagine you could speak to the same.
Well, so I went on between high school and college, I went on a program called AFS. I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, and AFS allows a community to put one person forward. And I got sent to Germany. Actually, Chile, and there was a coup or something that happened to Chile at that time, and I ended up in Germany for a year. Yeah.
Sorry, am I coming through? You kind of cut out there for a minute.
Oh, okay.
So
you want me to go back?
Yeah, just kind of rewind to the start of that story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so between high school and college, I took a gap year and ended up in Germany for a year. And I didn't speak a word of German when I got there, but I had to learn the language, to meet girls pretty much and get through school. And so that experience, I have to say, and you'll see in the book actually conveys a language for navigating growth in organizations, at least the seeds for a language to develop. And that experience had a huge impact on me and my understanding of sort of the relationship between language and conversation and being in it together and what alignment actually looks like. It's a very rich way to see change. I assume you probably resonate.
Yeah, that's resonating with me very, very well. And I suspect anyone else who has spent a significant time abroad, who's been immersed in different cultures and different languages, you can kind of wrap your head around that. And that was totally my experience. Transformative experience in my young adulthood and early career that has really shaped the way I view the world and the way I have shaped my practice, my academic work, my educational career, my leadership practice, everything. I can go back and point to a lot of the lessons I learned during that time for sure.
Yeah, so similar experience.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Well, and you already kind of started down this path, but tell us a little bit more about why this book, why you wrote this book, why now, and what you're really trying to accomplish through getting this out there to share with others.
So I actually, not consciously, but I think I started the book about 30 years ago. And it's when I decided to go into consulting because I was just fascinated with the whole process of growing and scaling companies and all the different elements that go into that. And I started taking notes and I started writing down what was working and not working. Flash forward 20 years from that point, maybe 15 years from that point. At that point, I'd worked with some companies and I'd been on their journeys for quite an extended period of time. So I worked with one company. We went from 4 scientists in a lab to being one of the largest DNA sequencing companies in our space in the world. We had labs all over China, all over Europe. We went through the entire process of scaling a company all the way up to a fully matrixed organization in a multicultural context. And that, and I was on their board for 18 years and working with the senior leadership team for about 22. So I took that entire journey all the way through. And so what happened is along the way, and there were many other experiences like that, and they're captured in the book, but along the way, I really was able to map out the process. I tried to write the book in 2009. I was living in Germany, actually, again. I was over there. I actually founded a part of our business when I was in Germany and tried to write it. And the challenge is all the theory was there and everything was proven, but I actually hadn't really nailed it to the point I wanted to nail it. So it's right, it's ready. It lays out a pretty consistent worldview on how you can really think about, how do organizations change? How do they do it in the direction of competitive advantage? How do you link culture to business? How does structure fit in there? What are the most dangerous conversations for a leader to lead? Where do you get in trouble? It covers all of those different topics. But the answer was something I wanted to do for a really, really long time, and it finally was ready. And this is it.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Wonderful origin story for a book that had been percolating, it sounds like, for decades. And you got to the point where you're able to get pen to paper and get it out, probably figuratively, not literally. I'm guessing you didn't actually use pen and paper, but who knows? Maybe you're old school. Anyways, that's fantastic. And as a writer myself, I love writing. I love getting ideas down, refining them, trying to figure out how to best communicate them. And so it is quite the process. It is painstaking. It is challenging, but it's very rewarding. And it's even more rewarding when you start to see people who resonate with your materials and that it's helping them in some way. And I think that's what transformation is all about: personal transformation, team, organizational transformation. It's all about growth and development and maximizing our potential. I think all of that's fantastic. So why don't we walk through now, the subtitle to your book is 7 Crucial Conversations for Business Transformation. Let's walk through those 7 conversations in short order, and we'll just kind of do a quick summary of what those look like, and we can chat about that. Okay.
Yeah, let me first say why the 7 conversations, and then I'll talk about them. But the title of the book is Navigate the Swirl, and the swirl is that inertia, organizational inertia that you feel, and the kind of sense of purposelessness you can feel in your jobs when you're not connected with other folks. So when you're not in actual aligned conversations and on a journey together. And so the 7 crucial conversations are a way out of the swirl. And the way to imagine the 7 crucial conversations is, I don't know, think of it as a rope, right? The swirl is this maelstrom, you're spinning around and there's a rope, a way to climb out. Well, the first thing to know is you can't get out alone. By its very nature, the swirl has to do with the social system around you. So you can push back all you want, but the system will push back and crush you. So you can only solve it by being in the solution with other people. So you really have to choose to understand that it's a social system, not a machine. And that sets a context for even being able to apply conversations, because transformation, organizational growth, and even the path to competitive advantage in a business all happen at the speed of conversations.
Yeah.
And this is really critical. Okay, so
Yeah. And well, let me just say too, I appreciate that in explaining the swirl metaphor. And as you were describing that, I'm like, I've been guilty of that. I've been pounded down and squashed down and beat into submission by the system because I wasn't as skillful as I could have been or should have been, in terms of how I was navigating that and involving others in the process. So that absolutely is essential.
I was reading something where someone was saying, the one way to navigate this is you have to choose. You may be put on a team, you may be, officially on a team or multiple teams in an organization, but you actually have to choose your own team. You have to actually build your own team. In other words, there needs to be a group of people who are in it with you so that you're not trying to do it alone. And when you try to do it alone, the system crushes you. And I think that's what you're pointing to. And so the question is how do you actually connect with others? So the 7 crucial conversations are a way to do that. Now, think of them as a rope out of the swirl. The bottom of the rope, if I tie a knot in the bottom of the rope, that's the activate purpose conversation. And it's sort of obvious why. If it doesn't link to a purpose, and if it doesn't connect to your own purpose, why bother? I mean, just a recipe for dissatisfaction. So that has to be that initial anchoring point. Now, the other side of the rope, the other end, is about implementation. Because if it doesn't link to actual implementation, to impacting the world, also kind of why bother? So the question is how do you link that purpose conversation all the way through to the implementation conversation in a social system with other people? There are other stuff in between. And the 5 conversations between purpose and implementation are those handholds, if you want to call them. And I'll just kind of go through them. There's activating purpose, and then there's driving focus, then there's shifting mindset. Those 3 conversations are the culture conversation. Then there's specifying roles and streamlining interdependencies. That's the whole conversation around org structure, roles, right? That's in between. And then you move into strategies, aligning strategies and implementing initiatives. And that's kind of the strategy conversation. Now, the thing to know about this is these systems, whether the system is a team or the system is an organization, they all evolve in a specific direction, like water flows in a certain direction. Flows from leadership. There's really leadership and culture flows into roles and capabilities, which flows into strategies and customer experience. And the challenge is that those things, if I make a change to culture, it flows through everything else below it. But if I make a change to strategy and customer experience, it doesn't necessarily flow up. So I swim against that current at my own peril. So the conversations take you through the optimal path of what it actually means to not only align with, individually between members in a team, but also between teams in an organization. Among those conversations, it's just the one thing to say, there's one right in the middle, and it's really, really dangerous. And it's the one that derails almost all transformational initiatives. And it's the system of roles conversation. It's conversation 4, because that's the place where your interests or my interests start to clash into those of the organization. And that's where all the wars break out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boundary maintenance and people trying to protect their turf or kingdom build rather than looking for ways to actually collaborate in meaningful ways for the benefit of the organization as a whole. And everything you're describing, I'm thinking of it from another kind of place of coalition building, right? As you mentioned, we can't do it alone. Organizations are these massive systems, and the most well-intentioned individual with the even skill and even with all the data on their side, if they're trying to do it alone to try to drive a transformation, they will get beat down by the system, or they'll get chewed up, spit out, kicked out of the system. And so you have to coalition build. You have to go through that painstaking process of building those relationships, building them upon a foundation of trust, and then moving your way through. And that's why organizational transformation is a time-consuming process. It's why you can't just flip the switch. It's why so many organizations fail at organizational change initiatives, is because they try to short circuit that painstaking process. They try to take shortcuts. They think that, well, we just want to see change immediately, so we're just going to decree it, and then people are going to do it because that's what's expected. And you're smiling and nodding your head like we've all experienced that, and it never works. In some cases where you have a lot of fear in the culture, it might work in the short term because people are so afraid of losing their jobs, but it never will truly work. And as soon as that fear-based leader leaves, then everything just ends up reverting back to the way it was before.
I mean, you said a lot of really, really important things. So let me just grab onto one part of it. One of the things that gets in people's way, the book has a bunch of these. One of the things that often get in leaders' ways is they think in terms of time as when they have a meeting. It's sort of like, we have to complete this deliverable, then this deliverable, then this deliverable. It's this driven by project management. And those are really important tools. In no way am I saying they're not important tools, but they lead to this blind spot. And the blind spot is there are certain conversations, these conversations where you time box a problem and say, I'm going to give this amount of time to it, work really well if the information is clear and the solution path is clear. But if the information is unclear or the solution path is unclear, you can't really think that way. You can actually create plans that just take you right off a cliff because you're not acknowledging what you don't know. You're not dealing with the fact that you're moving through event horizons, that there are going to be changes in the system that you can't see beyond. Like a new leader coming in. A new leader comes in, everything changes. Once again, culture, right? That changes the whole stack of conversations, and you're back at the beginning again. So a new leader is going to come in. I can't anticipate ahead of the curve how it's going to be when the leader gets there. All I can do is focus on creating the conditions to bring that leader on board properly. And in my role, I can actually calm everybody down and kind of encourage them not to think and with an anxious voice ahead of the curve, right? Settle people down. On the other side of the event horizon, the entire challenge of leading change shifts. You're now in a situation where it isn't about taking a decision or making a change. Those have all been taken. It's about aligning with it. It's about everybody holding up what it is and understanding the implications of it, and then incorporating that into their role or to the unique perspective that they have within the system. So there's so change is these unfolding things. Now back to time. If I think of time, there's an expression called chronos, which is thinking of time as a checklist, right? I get these things done. The opposite of chronos is kairos, and kairos would be thinking in terms of event time, right? The event is that new leader coming in. The event is the new product coming to market. The event is the event horizon. And when you reconceptualize and you think about it as through this kairos perspective, then what happens is you can actually manage it because you start to think about this condition has to precede these other conditions. Worrying about the stuff that's further down the road is not really a good use of my time. I can start to frame a journey. I can be on a journey with other people. And so one way to imagine that journey is, think of a stairway, right? So I'm at the bottom of the stairway, the top of the stairway is my destination. I have this ideal future state, this idea of where I want to go. I want to, have an organization where it's a high trust environment. Everybody's able to play full out from the perspective of their role for the good of the whole, right? I want to have, be the provider of choice, the partner of choice, I want to have market potential, scalability, sustainability, return. I want to have all of these, metrics. Okay, that's my future state. That's at the top of the stairway. When I'm at the bottom of the stairway, what I can think about is I can think about what are the gaps in the current state versus that future state. That's what I can know. And by looking at those gaps and identifying which ones really are the primary constraint, I can then see the next step on the stairway. I probably can't see, maybe I can see 2 steps on the stairway, and then the ones above that are all blurred out, and then I can see the top of the stairway. So then I take a step, I make that change to the system, I make that change to the team, to the culture, to the business, to the whatever, with my colleagues. And then what happens is that I'm now back at, I now have new information, I now understand the destination in a new way, and I move, right? So it's iterative, it's an unfolding journey, it's versioned, and that's the challenge. It's being in that space with other people. That's the focus conversation. But that space has to happen in the context of purpose. And you have to have the right mindset, because who's going to deal with all that uncertainty if we don't trust each other? If we can't have conversations, if I can't give you feedback, if we can't recover from setback, all of these kinds of things. And so those connection points that I'm talking about, that idea of being on a shared journey and the mindset that's required and happening in purpose, are all sort of they're the fundamental touchstones to be on a shared journey and to grow and scale a company together, and manage, really rapid change.
Yeah, I love it. This is super interesting. Richard, I'm shocked by just looking at the time, and I know that we're about out of time. We've only scratched the surface. I would hope to have you back so we can continue this conversation and to dive in even deeper into these areas. But everything you said has resonated with me. I think there's a lot of food for thought that I will certainly carry out and consider and reflect upon. I would encourage listeners to do the same. Before we wrap up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can connect with you, where they can find your book, anything else like that, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
The book is widely available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart. It's been picked up through a lot of, so you can pick it up pretty much anywhere right now. You can get in touch with me through our website, Growth River. The company, is about these ideas, and I have an entire team that supports that. And if the one word is for me, these ideas are really important because the world keeps. We've gone through COVID. We're all working remotely. You and I are sitting here on Zoom. We're in so many different places. And we've got to make some of these processes, ways of operating, visible, because then we can manage the complexities, these significant complexities together, and make them human-sized. And that's sort of why I'm turned on by this work, because I think it can really have a significant positive impact on all of us. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity.
Agreed, Richard. This has just been a pleasure. I encourage listeners to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Richard can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.